Okay, good evening everyone and welcome to the regular council meeting for Tuesday, July 5th. It's currently 7 o'clock. Before we get started, the Village of Anmore would like to open our meeting by recognizing the many Indigenous peoples of our area, including the following First Nations with communities that are located in the region that we now know as Metro Vancouver: Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Coquitlam. Further, we would like to honor the important place in history occupied by the many territorial keepers of these lands and waters around us since time immemorial. I'd like to call the meeting to order. So first of all, we're going to just be adding, we wanted to add an item 11D, summer traffic control funding, to the agenda. Could I get someone to move the agenda as amended? Moved, seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, carried unanimously. Public input. Public is permitted to provide comments to council on any item shown on this meeting agenda. A 2-minute time limit applies to speakers. Anybody would like to come forward? No? Okay. We now will move on to delegations. Tonight we have a Fire Smart program presentation. Tamara Mayers from the Fire Smart Coordinator to provide a presentation on Fire Smart and Fire Smart Assessment Program. Welcome and thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you. Hi everyone, I'm Tamara. So I'm the Fire Smart Coordinator for the Northeast sector. So that is Coquitlam, Port Coquitlam, Anmore, and Belcarra. We've been running this program for over a year, and it just got extended a few months ago. So we'll be doing these Fire Smart assessments till about the end of August, a little bit into September. So I'm just here to give a little bit information on the program and kind of where we're at with that, and then a little bit about Fire Smart itself. So we'll just go over some wildfires in BC, kind of my role in Fire Smart, some resources that we have, and a little bit about the program. So our fund, our UBCM Fire Smart Economic Recovery Fund, was about $496,000 that we received. And a few months ago, we had 4 Fire Smart ambassadors, which did our door knocking. So they knocked on about 7,000 homes within all 4 of those areas, and let those people know that they were eligible for a Fire Smart assessment. And then we had a Fire Smart representative who was going to home and giving the Fire Smart assessments. He's no longer doing that, so I'm the Fire Smart coordinator, but I'm also finishing up those assessments right now. So yeah, we canvassed over 7,000 homes. 5,000 was our goal, so we were able to do about 2,000 more homes than we thought we were able to. In Belcarra and Anmore, we canvassed every home, so everyone in those areas are eligible. In Poco and Coquitlam, only certain areas of people are eligible for the assessment, so if their homes back on to forested areas. And along with getting a Fire Smart assessment of your home, if the homeowner is 65 or older, they can apply for mitigation funding. So I'll go over a little bit about how that works in the next few slides. So wildfire in BC, so early fire season due to drought and heat waves, that's what we've been experiencing for the last few years. And then some of these stats that are about to come up in these slides are not last year's, but the year before and the year before that. So there were 1,642 fires that were burned in BC, and I believe those stats came from the 2021 fire season, and 869,000 hectares of land burned in BC in 2021. 60% of those wildfires were natural caused, 35% were human caused, and 5% were undetermined. So because of these stats, in a lot of places like the interior, areas like Coquitlam, Poco, and Anmore, we're focusing on starting our forestry practices and starting our Fire Smart a little bit early. So we're focusing on the wildland-urban interface, so the zone that is between the forest and homes. So areas in Coquitlam, up in like Burke Mountain and things like that, obviously areas in Belcarre and Anmore everywhere. So some of these slides I'm just going to go through and kind of pass over them, just so it makes more sense for Anmore. So the role of Fire Smart, they focus on prevention and mitigation. So before we ever experience any kind of wildfire here, so what we do is we'll go to someone's home and we work around, I'm just going to skip through these. We work around these zones. So the zone that we focus on is zone 1. That's about 0 to 1.5 meters around your home. Then we go to zone 2, zone 3, and we look at those. But what I'm mostly doing when I'm coming to homes in Anmore is I'm walking around the perimeter of the home. So I'm looking at what the material of the home is made of, what the roof is made of, the vegetation around the home, if they have debris, bushes, anything like that around the home. That's kind of like the non-combustible zone, zone 1. And then I'm moving out depending on how big of a property they have. So that goes into like zone 2 and zone 3. So these are areas around people's homes that, you know, even if they can't do like large work in their forested area of their property, it's more work that they can do right around their home. And that's kind of what we're focusing on here. So this is part of the sheet that I take with me when I go out to the homes. So we look at the roofing material. So a lot of homes in Anmore still have the cedar shake. And we're focusing on letting people know how to mitigate that, or if they're interested in changing their roofing material and what type of roofing material they should go with. As well, a lot of homes in Anmore have the wood siding, so talking to them about how they can mitigate that, or if they're interested in changing siding. And then just little things, so going around showing them like their vents, their eaves, making sure they're enclosed, if they have like lint or open vent holes, how they can fix that, and then talking about their gutters. So simple things that, you know, that you should be looking at on a seasonal basis just for maintenance. So in my zone 1, and specifically for Anmore, I've noticed that this is kind of the zone that everybody has really, really thick brush and debris in. Not so much for like Poco and Coquitlam, but definitely for Anmore and Belcarre. Their gardens are often really, really close to their homes. And they are storing their firewood next to their homes. That's another big one for out here. And they often have decks, and they're storing things underneath their decks. So again, firewood, furniture, debris, anything like that. So those are the things I'm focusing on in Anmore right now, is just educating people on that. And then as well for Anmore zone 2, so going out and talking about if they have forest on their property, how they can trim their trees, trim their bushes, space it out, what a healthy forest should look like on their property. A lot of the time people want me to come out and look at the forested area behind their house that is not on their property, and that's a big one, and I wish that I could help them, but if it's not on their property, if it's not on your property, I can't really do anything about that. So we kind of talk about the importance of doing what you can on your property. And again, like just doing the zone, the non-combustible zone, the area right around your house is going to be the most beneficial versus focusing on like the zone 2 and zone 3 area, especially if it's not on your property. And then recently we have had a new kind of hub come out on FireSmart, so it's a landscaping hub. It teaches people the right type of vegetation to plot around their house, and then the type of vegetation that is flammable. So we also talk to homeowners about different material that they can put in their gardens. So a lot of people have bark mulch. We're kind of getting away from that, so putting things like gravel or rock instead, and then talking about like keeping their lawn green, but again with watering restrictions, and then keeping it mowed to a certain height, just like little things like that. It really is just like seasonal maintenance that we're talking to them about. And then for vegetation, things like cedar, juniper, pine, and spruce. These are a lot of types of vegetation that I find in Anmore right next to people's houses. So just seeing if they're interested in replacing that vegetation with something that's a little less flammable, or if they're interested in taking it out and maybe keeping that vegetation a little further away from their house. And this is kind of part of the landscaping hub that I talked about. So the new, some of the nurseries around here have been taking part in Fire Smart. So if you go to the nursery, you can see these little tags on the trees, and it will tell you if it's a Fire Smart plant or not. And you can also go on the website and see if that plant is good for your area. So like the type of water, shade, climate that it needs. So I'm just going to go back because I just wanted to go over some of that quickly. So just back to here. So specifically for Anmore, I'd just like to say that we have done a very good job in Anmore of getting people to get these assessments done. But we do have some time left to get more assessments. So right now we have had about 50 residents get assessments. And then I think it's about 3 people take advantage of the mitigation funding. So that's a little bit of a low number. I think we get a couple more people taking advantage of that before it's over. So what that is if the homeowner's 65 or older, I'll go to their house. They can have the free assessment whatever age they are, but if the homeowner is 65 or older and there's something that needs to get done on their house, so that could be like tree trimming, vegetation removal, roof cleaning, gutter cleaning, pretty much any type of maintenance that is like on the checklist that I go over with them, they can get the labor covered for that. So they go and they get a quote. So for example, one of the residents that's had this done, it was tree trimming, so they got a quote for that, they send it to me, and then it gets approved by the Coquitlam Fire Chief, just reviews it, and then it gets approved. They go ahead and get the work done, and then I go back and do a secondary assessment to make sure that work was done, and then once I send all their paperwork in, they get a check in the mail to cover the labor. So the only thing it doesn't cover would be disposal fees or like a removal of like the branches or turning it into mulch or anything like that. And then it doesn't cover the taxes. For most of the things that are getting done around people's houses, the labor is the majority of the cost. So people have quite a bit of money that they can spend on this right now. We're really trying to get people to take advantage of it. And they have, I'll have to check the date because it might have changed, but I believe it's till the end of September to get the work done. So they'll have to get an assessment before the end of August, and then they have until the end of September to get the work done. And then I think in October, they can have their secondary assessment. So right now, I'm pretty filled up for until the end of July for assessments. So I'd be booking into August. So we kind of only have that month left for people booking in for these Fire Smart assessments. And I'd really like to fill up as many dates as possible. So I think that probably like this week and next week, we'll be sending some type of reminder out to the 4 locations, letting them know that they have a little bit of time left to get this done. But other than that, Anmore's done a really great job. And then there was just one more thing that I wanted to go over here. I don't know if it's in here. Oh, it's not in here. So there's a checklist that usually gets sent out to the homeowner. They can review it before I come, but it's a checklist that I go over. So it's pretty much everything that I talked about. It gives you a score at the end. So once I go to their house and I look at the material of their roof, the material of the siding of their house, their vegetation, all things like that, it gets them a score. And I just like to let everyone know that everyone has a very, very high score. Usually doesn't matter what type of house you have, it will tell you you're in extreme. So we don't really focus on the score. So once that's done, I've been sending every resident a list of my recommendations, so just notes that I've made, things that I've talked about while I'm there. So everyone gets that list, the checklist, and then it gets emailed to them and scanned to them as well. And then they can book the assessment by going to the northeastsector.ca website. Scroll to the bottom and you can fill out the online form. It sends me an email and then I'll get back to them with a time and date that they can book an assessment. So yeah, that's kind of it, nice and short and sweet. I didn't want to go too much into Fire Smart principles or anything like that. It's kind of what I talk about when I get to the person's house. So yeah, is there any questions?
Good, well thank you. Councillor Trowbridge.
Yeah, I went on the website and I booked.
Yeah.
And how long does it take before I get a response?
Check your junk mail. It's probably in your junk mail. For some reason, in the last few weeks, has been going to everyone's junk mail.
Okay.
Don't know why. I usually wait a little bit and then I'll send a reminder email, which also goes to your junk mail. And then if I have time, I'll try and call you. But it's usually pretty quick I get back to you. So if people haven't heard from me, just send a reminder.
3 weeks.
Okay, that's definitely in your junk mail.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm usually within a few days, within a day to get back to you. Yeah, usually just if something happens like that, I just tell people to resend it. There's also a phone number on there. I don't recommend people call it. It's just easier to send that form in because then I have all of your information on there and I can get back to you. But if anyone hasn't heard from me, just send a follow-up email and I'll try calling you for that.
Councillor Laidler.
What's the website again?
Northeastsector.ca.
Is that full word?
Yeah.
Councillor Weber.
Is there anything that the village should be doing, or do you have a list of guidelines that we can update our bylaws to sort of support your program? I mean, I know we have tree retention bylaws, but they don't really state where the trees should be planted in someone's property. Is there a list of things that, you could send to us that we could start working on, or probably be the next council that...
Yeah, so I think just in general, it's not anything that we've created, it's just Fire Smart in general, and they have all the guidelines on that, so more recommendations.
Okay.
They do have, this really just focuses on kind of the residential housing, but I think Fire Smart does have guidelines for things like that, and I can send you those guidelines for sure.
Yeah, guidelines for development, what to do.
And I think they're getting into that. That's kind of the next phase of Fire Smart, is kind of new housing and what to do and things like that. It's kind of their next phase. So they don't really have any type of program like this that talks about it. Maybe just a guideline booklet or something like that at this point.
Okay.
But yeah, that's kind of, I think the next phase of this program, that's kind of what that would be, is working on new development and stuff like that.
Okay.
So
It's just something we need to be aware of. It's another thing we have to address in, bylaws, developments, anything like that. Okay, thanks.
yeah,
Councillor Trowbridge.
So it's not in my junk mail.
it's not.
So do I need to reapply?
I would reapply. I haven't really had anyone not get responded to, and they'll usually call me. So I would reapply through the website portal. Not sure what happened there. Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you again for all the work you're doing. I think we're going to make sure that we post this again on the website, outlining the fact that we have, another month or so of free bookings and that. So thank you very much for that. And thank you for coming, and thank you for all the work that you're doing. It's great work. So. Okay, we will move on then. We have the Hal Weinberg Scholarship Presentation. Council presents the Scholarship Award to the 22 recipients that I've always referred to as the Muckle Twins. So they are here today, and I can tell you from personal experience how incredibly part of the community they both have been. It's been amazing work both of you have done. In regards to participating, you're usually always the first ones there, the last ones to leave at most of the events, and it really is it was an easy decision. And I just wanted to thank you for all the work that you did, and congratulate both of you on some pretty good school work that you've both done, and quite a bright future for both of you. So congratulations. We would love to get a picture with you as we present it, and we had to split it because it's just. We didn't want to put any favoritism, so. Pardon me? Oh, of course. Miss Howard? would that be over there? And it'd be good to, Trevor, and get in as well. Well, it'd be good to get all of us if possible. Come on, Council. Yeah.
Don't trip.
I know, I'm not going to trip. I don't think I'm going to trip.
I'm just going to.
Don't even.
And just so you know, you don't have to participate in the rest of the meeting. You're more than welcome to leave, although I know you're wanting to stay and wanting to learn about local government. But it is a beautiful evening out, so thank you for coming. Thank you, and congratulations. Okay, we'll just keep moving on then. We have, adoption of the minutes. The minutes of the regular council meeting held on June 21st, 2022. Could I get someone to move the recommendation? Moved. Seconded. Any debate? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Is there any business arising from the minutes? Nope. We'll move on to our consent agenda, which seems to have one item on it, and that is 7A, the 2022 Eligible School Site Proposals Resolution. This is a yearly thing that the school puts out. It's somewhat confusing to most people. We have gone through it and that, but it's just an allotment that they put together. So could I get someone to move the consent agenda? Moved. Seconded. Any discussion? See none. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. We'll now move on to 11A, new business, Village of Anmore 2021 Water Quality Report. Ms. Halliwell.
Thank you, Mayor McEwen. So this report also is an annual report that comes forward, and it essentially outlines our water system and what occurred within it in the prior year. So for 2021, we had 0 water complaints from residents in terms of any turbidity or discoloration or anything like that. And also this was the first year in a number of years that we haven't had any sampling come back with any high elevations of some of the things that they test for within our water. So I think that's a really big testament to our Public Works Department. We've got Mr. Donaldson here who would be happy to answer any questions that council might have in relation to the report specifically. But I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank him and his staff for doing such a phenomenal job, making sure that we've got really high quality, reliable drinking water here in the Village of Anmore.
Good. Any comments from council or? Councilor Weber.
Well, I want to thank our staff for, the water system is so important. And we as a council, we're so dependent on good people running the system and doing proper testing and doing proper flushing. So thank you for being so diligent and your crew. We had a water scare here a while ago and it wasn't pleasant. People got upset, people got angry, and they had every right to be. So I'm very happy to see that things are going well. So keep up the good work.
Any other comments? I will just add on to that with Councillor Weber. It was one of the main reasons that I actually ran for mayor. We did have a boil water advisory in this village for several months, and I don't think it was taken to the level of seriousness that it needed to be. And it was that's why I stepped forward and wanted to run for mayor. And I'll tell you, I am so proud of where we're at right now. And I just wanted to thank our public works team for the diligent work, and also for our engineering and staff for doing the right plans. And you know, it all started with the Dayton and Night water modeling report, which identified several shortfalls in the village that this council acted on. I think every one of those recommendations. And I'm very, very pleased, not only for the report, which talks about the health aspect regarding our water, but also the water delivery system, which we don't have any issues with whatsoever in regards if there was for fire protection. So I just, again, my hat's off to Scott and his department, and to our engineer, Mr. Boyd, and staff, because this is a very crucial thing. And I think getting these reports that show such a glowing review is easy to be accepted, but it's not the case in a lot of places. So I just thank everybody. So with that, we have a recommendation that council received the Village of Anmore 2021 Annual Water Quality Report for information. Someone to move that. Moved, seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay, we'll now move on to 11B, the additional capital request, 2022 capital works. A report dated June 29th, 2022 from our engineering consultant is attached. Mr. Boyd.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Normally I enjoy talking to you with my reports. Tonight is not so much of a fun report. So a little background, we went out to tender with our 2022 capital works a couple of months ago, and we closed the tender, and since then we've been trying to negotiate with the contractor to get it within the actual budgets which were set. And the original tender came in at, the lowest tender came in at 1.34 million, and the highest came in at, just one second, came in at 1.6 million. So you can see there's $300,000 difference between the tenders originally. Since that point, I've kind of reviewed the scope of work and what is essentially essential, and cut out what we can postpone and defer to another date at this point in time. But even at that point, it became clear, going back and forth with the contractor, that we just simply didn't have the funds to cover off the essential pieces of work. So I'm before you tonight to ask for some additional funding to cover off the scope of work, and to allow us to have some contingency within our budgets, and just in case something goes awry as part of construction. Whenever we do things, we try and plan things out the best we can, but sometimes something ugly turns up that we have to deal with and have to spend some additional capital on. So I'm before you tonight asking for additional funds of $231,000. I have a recommendation, if you would like me to read it
Yes,
out.
please.
The council approved the transfer of $231,310 from the capital reserves and authorized the award of the 2022 capital works program to Jack Seaweed for a total contract price of $819,332, including GST.
Could I get someone to move that, please? Moved, seconded. I'll open up for council. Any questions? Councillor Weber.
Yeah, I'm pretty concerned about this overage, but you guess you've answered my question. You've stripped this down to the bare minimum. I mean, obviously Hemlock needs to be done. Can Hemlock be delayed, and would that help us?
I would say Hemlock can't really be delayed much more. That it's shown signs that just this past winter it blew apart, because quite simply the asphalt is so segregated that the moisture's got underneath the asphalt, and then when it freezes it pushes it out and everything heaves underneath it, hence why it basically came apart so substantially this past year. Could you survive? Maybe. I think you're rolling the dice with regards to weather. If we just have a wet weather period, yes, it would kind of probably become more lumpy and somewhat passable, but we already have a section that needs to be paved. You know, as we know, it's just in gravel. So my professional opinion, I'd be saying...
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
So in your opinion, I mean, if we did some repairs, it wouldn't be, we would have to do so many repairs, it just makes more sense to just...
Yes, more than likely. I can't go into the future and tell you for sure that's going to happen, but my professional opinion would be, yes, you're going to be back out there, and operations would be spending a lot of time this coming year patching it and fixing it. And I'd also, just to add to that, the whole reason that we're really in this situation is with regards to the price of oil. And again, you're kind of rolling the dice that it could actually become more expensive next year based on where predictions of oil prices are going. So that, as much as I want to defer it and roll the dice, I don't know if it's really worth it in this circumstance, unfortunately.
I was thinking the same thing. And I guess the other concern is it's probably, and we have an asset management plan, and asset management plans are all great, based on great intentions and assumptions, so that probably needs to be looked at the next council. You know, are we saving enough? Are we putting enough away? Are we is there enough in the plan to cover all our asset replacement on the schedule that we've kind of come up with in the plan? And is there enough money? I mean, construction costs have gone crazy. It's 30% over the last 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, these asphalt prices have gone up almost 70% compared to last year.
Yeah.
It just goes to show you the price of oil and what it does to the road building, quite simply.
Right.
So it's something we could obviously look back at on the asset management side of things. But maybe as time goes on, oil comes back down in the price of a barrel, so it kind of brings our asset levies back down. We set our asset levies based on some averages. So with a law of average, I would assume that we're going to come back down in the next few years here to more normalized levels of oil cost.
Right. Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Councillor Trowbridge.
$250,000 above budget is never fun, but I think it's a scary roulette wheel if we try to defer. The chance of price deflation before the end of the year, i.e. winter, is almost zero. I don't have a crystal ball any more than anyone else, but when you play the equities market, you pay attention to these things, and the price of oil is not coming down this year. Even if it does, there's going to be a trailing deflation on the costs that all of the contractors have built into their system already. So I would say, please don't defer it. Also, I happened to be going up to have a look, and I was riding one of my Vespas, and it's dangerous. It's now a dangerous place. And you think about people riding their bicycles. For a car, it's not dangerous. It can injure your car, perhaps, but kids on two-wheel vehicles, even adults on two-wheel vehicles, this thing needs to get taken care of. So I'm in favor of spending the extra. I grit my teeth and do it, but I feel really good that we've been building contingencies, reserves is the correct term, I suppose, that allow us to handle this without harming any other budget. So, that's something I think we can be happy about.
Good. Councillor Cryer.
Thank you, Mayor McEwen. Yeah, as much as that's hard to hear, I don't think it's a huge surprise, considering I'm sure everyone that's here is seeing the incredible increases in everything. So I appreciate the work you did to get it down and negotiate with the contractor, but yeah, I'm definitely in support of it. That's been going on way too long, and the residents are clearly frustrated, as well they should be. So thank you for that. I support.
Good. Councillor Laidler.
Is it the fact we took the lowest bid as opposed to a medium bid or a higher bid?
No, it's nothing to do with that. The contractors we got prices from are all reputable contractors who I've worked with personally in the past years. We have actually completed, since I've been up here, working here, I would say out of the past 4, they completed the last 3, so that, we're well aware of each other. They're a reputable contractor, good contractor, so it wasn't that it's the lowest bid, it's just quite simply the cost of oil is just killing us. Yep.
Good. I just wanted to add a few comments, and I know Councillor Weverink is in the business in regards to this, and his comment about 30% inflationary costs. This pretty much equates to exactly 30%. And I know that you've done some due diligence. I know that this council also had made a promise that we were going to get Hemlock done, and we've also done a lot of other roads. And we've had fairly good value in that. We've done Strong Road, Thompson Road, Sugar Mountain Road, Elementary Road. You know, we have done extensive work. Every year we basically took on one road. Granted, this is more than what we were thought, but again, it reverts back to what Councillor Trowbridge said, and that is being in a strong financial situation as we are with our reserves, we're able to continue keeping the roads safe in this community. And I can tell you, talking to a lot of my colleagues in other municipalities, they are putting off work because they just cannot do it. You know, they just do not have the reserves to be able to do it. And how fortunate we are with, you know, financial planning to be able to do it. So I'm certainly supportive of doing this. I compliment you on your work. I know that you tried to, you know, I've talked to you personally in regards to things that we could cut out, and some of it was just improving some of the catch basins. But I think the key thing is that this was a road that has been around for a long time and needs to be done, and it's going to end up, as we found with a lot of the other roads, costing us just to maintain. And it's money that we'd just be putting, you know, down the drain, so to speak, rather than just fixing it properly. So I thank you for your work. I will call we've had it moved and seconded, so I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. And thank you again for your work. And if we can, get onto it as soon as possible.
Do you want to make a comment?
Sure.
Yeah, so based on the schedule in there, I actually did contact the contractor today, you know, if we did get agreement here today to extend the funds. And so by the end of the month, they'll be out here working. It'll take us about a couple of days just to get some paperwork together, and they need to send in their paperwork, some bonding, other bits and pieces. So by the end of July, you will see them, and Hemlock's the first road to get going on.
Good.
So we'll be going
end of July?
Yeah.
Perfect. That's great. You know, and some of the things that we tried to do in past is we would actually put off some of our projects to do at the very end of the year, and we got into some problems with that because the weather was very unpredictable. And so, you know, this is something that has to get done, but it was a way of us trying to save costs. So I think, you know, it has to get done, and we'll just do it. So, okay, thank you. I'll now move on to 11C, appointment of the Chief Financial Officer. Ms. Halliwell.
Thank you, Mayor McEwen. So I'm bringing this recommendation forward tonight because Ms. Martin has been with us for almost a year. Time flies when you're having fun, I know she would say. And as council is aware, I have been fulfilling the role of both Chief Administrative Officer and Chief Financial Officer for my tenure here with the village. And when you don't have another opportunity to appoint a Chief Financial Officer, that's what you do. But really, from a good accounting practice, good audit practice, you have that segregation of duties between the CAO and the CFO. And bringing Lena on last year as our Manager of Financial Services, and because she's performed exceptionally well in these past 11 months, I wanted to recommend that she be appointed as the Chief Financial Officer to segregate those duties and to also just highlight her good work. So I've got a recommendation, and I actually have a bit of an addition to what's published in the agenda because we also need to consider signing authority as well. Okay. So I'll read the recommendation if that's okay.
Please.
That Lena Martin be appointed as the Chief Financial Officer for the Village of Anmore pursuant to Section 149 of the Community Charter, and that Council designate Julie Halliwell, Chief Administrative Officer, as the primary staff signatory for banking purposes for the Village of Anmore, and that Karen Elrick, Manager of Corporate Services, and that Lena Martin, Manager of Financial Services, be designated as alternate staff signatories, and that further Council affirm all village-issued payments require the signature of one signatory and one staff signatory.
Good. Could I get someone to move that, please? Moved, seconded. Any discussion? I would just like to say congratulations, and it's been great having you on board for the last year, and thank you. Yeah. Anyway, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. And congratulations. Now move on to 11D, the summer traffic control funding. Ms. Halliwell.
Yes, so we had our first weekend, and it was a long weekend, with the new Bunsen Lake reservation system. And it went, I think, as well as it probably could have, given the really hot, warm weather we had, both on Friday and Saturday. And part of that was due to some of the planning efforts that BC Hydro put in while they were looking at implementing this pilot project. But one of them also was a decision to bring traffic control in over and above what their plan included. And that was to station 2 traffic control people at the intersection of Sunnyside and East Road, so that if people were coming into that area, it was another sort of stop to say, if you don't have a reservation, don't bother going to the north end of the village, you're not going to be allowed into the lake. And that seemed to be really effective, and I know Councillor Trowbridge, you might be able to speak quite specifically to that. So for the traffic control people that we had last weekend, I was able to negotiate with BC Hydro to have them cover the costs of those traffic control personnel. But I was aware, sort of going into it, that it would just be for that weekend, and that if the village was interested in continuing to have those traffic control people at that intersection, that we would have to look at securing some additional funding, because we don't have anything currently budgeted for that. So that's what I wanted to talk about with you tonight. To give you a sense, what the plan would be is that we would only look to book the traffic control people on those hot, sunny weekend days or statutory holidays that come up between now and the end of the summer. And it's about $700 for a 4-hour minimum shift. And that seemed to be all right for this past weekend in terms of having them sort of for that morning block of reservations, as opposed to all day for the morning and afternoon. So, you know, it's really hard to say what the total impact might be on the budget, because we don't know how many nice, hot, sunny Saturday and Sundays we're going to have. But if you sort of look at the number of weekends we have between now and the end of the summer, it could be upwards of $9,000, just to give you an order of magnitude. So maybe I'll open it up for any discussion or questions that council has, and we'll go from there.
Councillor Trowbridge.
Yeah, I was going to speak to it in my councillor's report, but this is more aligned with what's going on. So I was there Friday morning and Saturday morning for 2 hours the first day and 2.5 hours the second day. And the way it was set up was a checkpoint headed west on East Road, and then another checkpoint heading north on Sunnyside, right at that intersection where our volunteer fire department is. It really kept the traffic from being bottlenecked at the north end of Sunnyside. So the final checkpoint where you had to actually show your paper or your phone was actually still down at the park entrance. But there are actually 3 checkpoints, the 2 I mentioned, and then one at the turnaround before you get to the park gate. And so what would happen is those traffic controllers, and one of them was Joe, by the way, he was stationed on northbound Sunnyside, and they would just ask if you had a reservation. If you didn't, Joe would direct them to the right so that they didn't have to go down, turn around, or do anything weird. They could just make a right turn and exit. And the converse on East Road, they would just direct them to the left. So I stood with Corporal Romer for probably over an hour watching at the peak, and it was absolutely smooth. So I started timing the wait times, because there were some people being a little bit impatient, but those were all, I'm sad to say, Anmore residents. The people from outside Anmore trying to get to the lake were very polite and very well controlled. And I started timing it, and there was 10 to 40 second wait time was the most. Some people don't want to be inconvenienced at all, but I consider 10 to 40 seconds, less than a minute, to be a pretty acceptable delay for somebody on a Saturday or Friday morning or maybe Sunday morning. So it was extremely smooth. And unlike in the past, because I spoke to everyone, and unlike in the past, people were not getting angry. There were 3 cases over the total weekend of people uttering profanity as they drove away, and they weren't happy that they were turned away. 3 out of hundreds and hundreds of cars. There was never a jam. On Friday, there were 10 cars waiting for the park to open. That's versus the previous weekend, there were over 300, and they completely clogged up Ravenswood. Our emergency workers could not get down Ravenswood. If somebody had a medical emergency, it could have made a significant difference to them. And on Saturday morning, I went back Saturday because I was concerned that Friday might be an anomaly because it was Canada Day, and maybe people had other things drawing them away from the lake for Canada Day celebration. Saturday was the equivalent of Friday. Really, really smooth. There were 30 cars lined up before the gates opened, but they were all on the east side of Sunnyside, off the paved surface, waiting patiently, and I think word's getting out very quickly that if you have a reservation, you don't even need to line up. So it's really starting to work. I then went into the warden's office inside the park and spoke with Tracy, who is a water worker and was acting warden for the day, and asked her about herself and her staff and how things were working. And I went through the park to see what was going on as well. This was the first weekend that they haven't had arguments or fights over picnic tables. Because normally there's these 300 cars and they open the gates and it's a crush and everybody's running to get claim their space, and they've actually had physical fighting over such things, which is bizarre to me, but nonetheless it has occurred. And this weekend, on both the Friday and the Saturday, it was completely calm. Everybody seemed very happy. She mentioned on her own volition that all of her staff were extremely happy, and they were happy to work the shift, which has been a problem for them, getting people to work the shifts because it's been mayhem. And the park goers, I walked among them and they were all smiles and giggles, and the way it should be. And the parking lot, somebody I'm sure will mention that the parking lot was not full, and that's true, and it's designed that way. There is a morning booking, an afternoon booking, and an all-day booking. And most of the hikers come in the morning booking, and they do the trail in 3 to 5 hours, depending on their condition. I'm a 5-hour guy. They leave the park. And so there is this constant turnover. And they have been overbooking. Capacity on the pavement is 550 spots. The overflow parking lot adds another 50, depending on how ordered people park, so 600 total. And they've been booking between 700 and 800 is Tracy's. That's not my number, that's what she said. And that's so far been functioning and working. So, I mean, it's the first weekend. I'll go back and check if we get the weather next weekend, but so far a massive success and much, much safer. When tempers are down and people are calm in vehicles, that's safer. So that's my report.
Good. Well, thank you, and thank you for spending the time to really give us a good analysis as to what's going on. I will just add, I did talk to Chief Sharp earlier today, and he was his expectations for the system were blown away. He said it was amazing how well it worked, and he said that there was no issues whatsoever with getting any of the first responders anywhere throughout the village and having any sort of backup. So he was very, very pleased and very, very impressed. And I think, as this role of council, it's about the protection and safety and accessibility of our residents. And, unfortunately for some people, it's put a little bit of a wrinkle in regards to their lake access and that, but, there's certain compromises that are going to have to be made with everything. And I think this is one of them, to be able to have, our first responders, for example, Trevor Muko, first responder on the weekend. If he can't get to the fire hall, how are we going to be able to tend to our residents? So I'm very, very pleased at the success so far. So, and I think he is as well. Councillor Trowbridge? Yeah.
I think it's important to note too, there was some confusion. If you're on a bicycle or on foot or any other kind of transportation like that, there's no reservation required. You can come and go as you please. So for those of us lucky enough to live in the village and have a bicycle or live close enough that we can walk, And presumably, if you're planning to walk the 9 kilometers around the lake, you can walk the 1 kilometer to get there. But I'm being facetious, but in truth, you can come and go from the lake as you please.
Well,
So-
and as well, through some lobbying with TransLink, there is buses that go right to the beach. That we've worked very hard to increase that service as well. So there's a lot of different ways to get in. So anyway, we have could you
You
present?
can read out a recommendation, if you like,
Okay,
in relation
please.
to the funding for the traffic control people. So the recommendation would be that council authorize funding of up to $9,000 for 2022 to hire traffic control personnel as needed for Bunsen Lake traffic, and for funding to be allocated from the surplus reserve. Except Lena's got her hand up.
I would also ask that continuing negotiating with BC Hydro regarding some of the cost sharing.
Maybe I can just let Lena comment in case I've missed the mark on the recommendation there, and we need
Okay.
to adjust it.
Thank you for the recommendation. I would like to add this could be potentially covered under the COVID grant as well.
Okay, good, thank you. Councillor Laidler.
Could someone clarify, whether it be Kim or Ms. Halliwell, they're allowed for all-day booking as well?
So I can provide some information around that. So 24 hour, like the day before you want to visit Bunsen Lake, you can either book a morning block, an afternoon block, or an all-day block. And one of the things that I was going to mention a little bit later on in my report, but I'll mention it as we're talking about it now. One of the things that BC Hydro is going to do a little bit more communicating around is if it's a Tuesday and you get up and you see the weather's really nice and you don't have anything going on that day, you can go to the website and book a reservation for the same day, as long as they're available. So that's something as well. It doesn't have to be the day before. You could, as long as there's a pass available, if it's 10 o'clock in the morning, you want to go at 2 p.m., you go onto the website and you book for the same day. So that's a possibility as well.
The portal opens up at midnight each day, and at 1 minute after midnight, from then on, you can do what you need to do.
And how do they control the 4 hours? Is there a parking bylaw officer?
I'm not sure of their internal procedures in relation to that. It's all managed by the park.
Hydro.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good, okay. With the addition to the recommendation of further consulting with the cost sharing with BC Hydro, could I get someone to move the recommendation? Moved, seconded. I'll call the question. All those.
Can we make comments now?
Oh, sure. Go ahead. Yeah.
Trying to follow procedure.
Okay.
I'm glad Councillor Crowbridge went and saw this firsthand, and I'm really glad that it's been a lot more positive. You started to read social media and stuff, oh, this is a disaster. Well, it's just people that weren't, didn't want change. We've been very clear to BC Hydro that they need to manage their traffic to their lake. It becomes our problem. We've had to put resources to it. I'm not in favor of putting resources to this, but I'm certainly not in favor of going back to the way it was, because that costs us more, possibly lives. So, I'm in favor of this budget increase with the caveat that we really push Hydro to pay for this. I'm glad it's coming out of the COVID grant, so really at the end of the day, we're not paying for it. But it is Hydro's problem, and I want them to realize that this is their problem. And we don't really care how they resolve it, as long as it's resolved. So if people are getting around and the fire department has access, and people aren't inconvenienced, then this is a good thing.
We will have an opportunity to meet with Hydro and do a synopsis in September.
Great.
So make sure you're there.
I will try my best.
Okay, good.
You make a good point. This is actually a test. It only goes until September.
Yep.
And I'm on the same page as Councillor Wevering. However, because I saw how effective it is, I'm comfortable approving the budget to make sure we have coverage. But offline, we needn't do it now, but offline, I have some suggestions how we might be able to reduce that and cut that back.
Good. See no further questions, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Halliwell. We don't have any, so we're on to the mayor's report. I had BC Hydro on here, but I think we've exhausted that. So again, I just want to reiterate, I've heard a lot of positive feedback in regards from residents, especially that at the north end of Anmore. as to how this last weekend played out, and then again, and some very, very positive comments from our fire chief as well. So I wanted to talk about myself and Councillor Weberink and Councillor Cryer participated in the tree planting ceremony, which was for the grade 5s leaving Anmore Elementary. Thank you to Public Works for putting that together, and we paid for the 4 vine maple trees. Nancy Canower, who's head of the garden club, did an amazing job organizing it all, and quite a few members of the garden club came out for the day, and it was really, really something special, and they all participated in planting these 4 trees in Spirit Park, and then the garden club actually out of their own funds bought freezies for everything, and the kids were so excited, and the weather held off. It was really something, a really special event, and something that hadn't been going on in the village for about the past 5-6 years. So it had been there had been a bit of a sabbatical in that. So it was really appreciate Nancy getting back involved in this. So that was great. I just wanted to tomorrow I'm participating in the Eagle Ridge Hospital fundraising golf tournament out at Swanee-Set. So hopefully we'll be raising a lot of money. I just got a note today that their emergency operating room just opened up. Which is great news serves all our region and that, and I'm sure the emergency, the new ER, which services Belcarra, Anmore, and Coquitlam and Port Moody. So great news there, and it's all part of this fundraising that it comes to fruition. Maury Day, which is not that far away, believe it or not. So it's second Sunday traditionally in September. Part of my phone call to Chief Sharp was to talk to him about involvement of the fire department in Maury Day. We are not going to be able to have a traditional Maury Day as times of the past. We've got a construction site, we have limited resources there, no washrooms. So one of the thoughts that's been sort of conversed out there is to do something really simple, and that would be maybe a concert, get a band to come and play from maybe 4 till 7 o'clock on the Sunday. BYO chairs and blankets. The fire department would do not the actual fire department, but the fundraising arm of the fire department. Firefighters Association would do hamburgers and smokies as a way for them to generate money for these volunteers. And then we could also do a beer and wine sales as well. So we're thinking about keeping it really simple. The only thing that the village would need to do would be to, of course, advertise a little bit. We could do parking down here at the school, and we just have to bring in a few porta potties, 3 or 4 porta potties, just for the afternoon on Sunday. So keep it a real simple thing. I talked to Ms. Halliwell earlier today and Sabina, and they were both seemed to be that it's something that isn't going to take a lot of staff time and would be really easy to facilitate and keep the tradition of Maury Day going. We just need to find a good band or somebody like Chilliwack or Trooper or something like that. I don't know, but anyway, that we can start working on. So, but Prism, yeah. But we need to. We would need to get some sort of direction from council. I don't know of a resolution, but just some direction if people are in favor of doing something like this. So. Do I see some?
Yeah, from my perspective, the funding's in place because we have the annual budgets for it.
Okay.
So as long as there's a general agreement from council that that's the direction you want to go, then we can certainly start making plans that way.
Yeah, I know that, and maybe you can help me with this. Sean Della Genova, who used to be the principal here, is part of a band, a good band. Yeah, so I could maybe talk to Carrie and see if she could reach out to him and see or something. It'd be great to have a good, kind of mix of music and stuff like that for people to come out to. And then kind of make it we'll call it a picnic in the park for Maury Day or something like that. So, and again, it'd be great to support the fire department as well, and they'd have their barbecue out, and we could do beer and wine and stuff like that, and it would be great. So, I see commitment from everybody. Good. Okay, good.
What's the date it's going to be, John?
That would be, it's the second Sunday in September.
September 11th.
September the 11th. And do it in kind of an afternoon sort of thing. I guess Public Works would probably want a few more garbage cans out and stuff like that, but we'd probably set the band up in the gazebo because that's where there's power. and then everybody would just kind of, you know, go down from there. So, okay, great, awesome. That's all I got. Okay, councillor's report. Councillor Weber.
Not much to report, but other than it was nice. I've been a little laid up as of late, so it was kind of nice to get out and do the garden club thing with the grade 5s. You know, you don't want to upset the garden club. They're kind of the unofficial Senate in Anmore, and you want to keep them happy. And they do a great job, so it was just really nice. I love those little village things. It's one of the reasons I live up here, and I'm very much looking forward to Montgomery Day at whatever capacity we can do it in. And then I just had a question for staff. Flail mowing in the ditches. Is that going to happen this year? Are we doing that?
How convenient that Mr. Donaldson is here.
Yeah, it just happens to... Oh, really? Okay. I mean, it's great salmonberry picking on the ditch walking over here, so...
It was a bit of, you know, a collision of all things where we had the trailer move.
Yeah.
And then the mowing and then the growing season went from nothing to everything all at once. And so we had mowing to catch up with. And so we're getting into the flail mowing now. So it is being done.
It is being done.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Any other Councillor Cryer?
Thank you. I also wanted to echo thank you to Councillor Trowbridge. I want to say congratulations to Lena. It's very exciting that we're able to gather again. I'm happy that we're moving forward with a new version of Montgomery, or a temporary version. I also attended the Chamber of Commerce Golf Tournament last week, as well as the tree planting. As Mayor McCune said, it was lovely. Summer break, we are on a break now, but there are still meetings that we'll all be attending. I have Mental Health Task Force and Healthier Community Partnerships and a few others, but other than that, I just wanted to wish everyone a lovely summer.
Good. Thank you. Okay, our Chief Administrative Officer's report. Ms. Halliwell.
Thank you. So I think we've covered most things off. Property taxes were due yesterday, so penalties have now been applied. And the other update is on the Anmore Community Hub. So all of the excavation has now been completed, including for the footings, and they're starting to do the forms for the footings. So we're hoping that as early as next week, they'll be able to start pouring concrete for some of that. So moving along and working hard to make sure that we've got everything in place that we need to, and the permits will be coming, and it's all happening together. So it's great.
Good. Okay. We have some information items, minutes of the public hearing held on June 21st, some general correspondence from the town of Gibsons. I'll now open up to public question period. Public is permitted to ask questions of council regarding any item pertaining to village business. 2-minute time limit applies to speakers.
Can't open it up. My question to Mayor and Council is quite simple in some ways, but why is Council's strategic plan so different from the official community plan? The strategic plan speaks of providing, I'm quoting here, providing alternate options for sewer construction and treatment, end quote, and it speaks of, quote, creating opportunities to live, work, shop, and play within Anmore, end quote. But the OCP, which is the community's policy foundation, states that, quote, unlike its neighbors, Port Moody and Coquitlam, the village is not planning for significant change, end quote. With respect to the then termed Ioka lands, the OCP states, quote, the development of the Ioka lands will take place in accordance with the fundamental principles of this plan. So, given what is stated in our council's strategic plan, my other questions are, does council intend significant change? Are they planning to update the OCP, our fundamental document? And if so, when? And how is it that council has a strategic plan for both sewer access and shopping in Anmore without ever consulting with residents? Are you assuming that everyone wants it? Thank you.
Good. Well, I'm going to give a couple of those questions. First of all, the OCP and the strategic plan are two completely different papers. The strategic plan talks about all things with the villas. The OCP is very much a guiding principle for land development. So those are the two dramatic differences of the two. Regarding the sewer, we did accomplish that, and that was with Anmore Green Estates, which a letter should be going out in the this week, actually, talking about the success of being able to facilitate another option for them for their septic thing, which was mandated by the province. Regarding the shopping and that, we've had a lot of people talk to us in their strategic plan about how they would like to be able to walk to a bakery, coffee shop, a store, and we do a little bit of that right now with the store that's in existence right at the north end of Sunnyside Road, but we wanted to work on expanding that a little bit in our strategic plan to limit the environmental impact of people having to travel down the hill via car and come back. So a lot of the things in our strategic plan, we've actually accomplished quite a few of them. I know Councillor Trowbridge actually brought it up the other day, and we had a fairly good discussion about it, and it was really becoming the purpose of it when we did it 4 years ago was about really making a complete community, and we've achieved a lot of those goals, and yeah, and it was put forth in front of the public, and we didn't receive any comments regarding the strategic plan that we had put forth, so it was endorsed with nothing. So anyway, but thank you for your question, but the two again are very separate, the OCP and the strategic plan. So any other public questions? No? Okay, motion to adjourn. So moved, seconded. Any discussion? See none, all those in favor. Thank you everybody for coming out. Have a great summer. And congratulations, Ms. Martin.